Here is the sun, baking the jagged volcanic rocks of Rinca Island until the air itself seems to shimmer and warp. A haze of heat rising from the parched earth where the scent of sulfur mingles with the salt of the nearby sea. And in this unforgiving crucible of the Indonesian archipelago, a shadow moves, heavy and ancient, dragging its belly across the dust, with a sound like dry leaves scraping against stone. This is not a creature of the modern world, not a beast that belongs to the age of mammals, but a ghost from a time when reptiles ruled the earth, a living relic that has survived eons of change. The Komodo dragon, Varanus komodoensis, the undisputed king of these islands. A predator so perfectly adapted to its harsh domain that it has no natural enemies here, save for its own kind. Watch as it pauses, the heavy scales of its armor-plated skin absorbing the brutal midday sun, not as a burden, but as fuel. For this is a creature of the sun, ectothermic and reliant on the external world to stoke the fires of its metabolism. And as the heat seeps into its massive body, which can grow to 10 feet in length and weigh over 300 pounds, the dragon's engine begins to hum, its muscles priming for explosive power hidden beneath a deceptive lethargy. It tastes the air, a lame yellow forked tongue flicking out and retracting in a rhythmic pulse, tasting not just the dust, but the chemical signatures of life and death carried on the wind. The Jacobson's organ in the roof of its mouth decoding a map of the island that is invisible to human eyes. A map where the scent of a decaying carcass 5 miles away shines like a beacon in the darkness, or the faint metallic tang of blood from a wounded water buffalo whispers of opportunity. The dragon begins to move again, a swaggering, heavy-footed gait that belies its speed. For when the moment strikes, this lumbering giant can accelerate to 12 miles per hour, a burst of kinetic energy that can knock a deer off its feet or shatter the legs of a boar. But for now, it is a patient hunter, a master of the ambush, blending seamlessly into the tall, dry grass that mimics the color of its hide, a camouflage honed by millions of years of evolution. It heads towards the waterhole, the only source of relief in this arid landscape during the dry season. A magnet for the island's prey, the Timor deer, the wild boar, the water buffalo introduced by humans long ago, all drawn by thirst to the place where death waits, coiled and still. As the dragon settles into the brush near the water's edge, we see the glint of intelligence in its dark, beaded eyes. An intelligence often underestimated in reptiles but undeniable here. For Komodo dragons are capable of complex behaviors, remembering the paths of prey, learning from experience, and even engaging in play. Though today is not for play, today is for survival. A young Timor deer approaches the water, nervous, ears twitching, nostrils flaring as it scans for danger. But the dragon is a void in the landscape, a stone that breathes, holding its breath for minutes at a time, its heart rate slowing, becoming one with the silence until the deer lowers its head to drink. The explosion of violence is sudden and terrifying, a blur of scales and teeth as the dragon launches itself from cover, jaws gaping wide to reveal rows of serrated, recurved teeth like those of a shark, designed not to crush bone, but to slice through flesh and grip with tenacious force. And as the teeth sink into the deer's flank, a venom gland in the lower jaw pumps a toxic cocktail of proteins that induce shock, prevent blood clotting, and lower blood pressure, ensuring that even if the prey escapes the initial attack, it will not go far. The deer thrashes, panic overriding pain, and manages to tear free, bounding away into the scrub, bleeding heavily. But the dragon does not pursue with frantic energy. It watches, it waits. It knows that the work is done, that the venom is coursing through the victim's veins, and that time is now its ally. The sun begins its descent, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and burnt orange, casting long shadows across the savanna as the dragon begins its tracking, following the scent trail of the wounded deer with methodical precision. Joined now by others, for the scent of blood is a dinner bell that rings across the island, drawing dragons from their territories, creating a tension-filled gathering where size and strength dictate the pecking order. They find the deer now succumb to the venom and blood loss, lying in a clearing, and the feast begins. a chaotic frenzy of tearing and swallowing, for these reptiles can consume up to 80% of their body weight in a single sitting, their articulated jaws unhinging to swallow large chunks of meat, bone, and hoof whole, a grotesque and awe-inspiring display of efficiency that leaves nothing to waste. But survival here is not just about hunting, it is about reproduction, about passing on the genetic torch. And as the mating season approaches in the cooler months, the island becomes an arena for ritual combat, where males wrestle for dominance, rearing up on their hind legs, grappling with their forelimbs, trying to pin their opponent to the ground in a test of strength that rarely results in death but establishes the hierarchy needed to court the females. The female, however, is not a passive prize. She is fierce and selective. And after mating, she will dig a deep nest in the earth or commandeer the mound of an orange-footed scrub fowl, laying her clutch of 20 or so leathery eggs, which she will guard fiercely for months, protecting them from other dragons, including other females and even smaller males who would see the eggs as a meal. When the hatchlings emerge, vibrant and patterned in green and yellow to hide in the trees, they instinctively scramble upwards, ascending into the canopy to escape the cannibalistic adults patrolling the forest floor, living an arboreal life for their first few years, hunting insects and small lizards. A completely different existence from the titans they will become, a necessary separation of niches that allows the population to thrive without the young competing directly with the old. We watch a juvenile, agile, and skittish, navigating the thin branches, looking down at the massive, dusty form of an adult passing below. A glimpse of its own future if it can survive the gauntlet of predators, starvation, and disease. A journey from the vulnerable treetops to the apex of the island's food chain. As night falls over Komodo National Park, the heat dissipates, replaced by a cool ocean breeze, and the dragons retreat to their burrows to conserve heat, leaving the landscape to the bats and the owls. But their presence remains, a palpable weight on the ecosystem, a reminder that here in this remote corner of the world, the age of dragons never truly ended. They are the guardians of a primordial past, a testament to the resilience of life in its most raw and savage form. Creatures of blood and bone and venom that demand our respect and our awe. Living symbols of a wildness that is rapidly vanishing from our planet, standing their ground on these islands of fire and stone, waiting for the sun to rise again and restart the eternal cycle of the hunt.